Historians would say, why is it okay for Reagan to do it and not President Biden? But let me ask you about
why is it okay? Well, can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Senator, again, military officials say the technology has changed. But let me ask you about how
these military officials that you're talking about
let me ask you something.
Full of crap.
This is my video update on this Monday midday, May the 13th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Lindsey Graham. Looking a bit panicky there, Lindsey, huh? A bit emotional. Not a good look for Lindsey Graham. But the neocon plans just don't seem to be going well at all, huh? Nothing is going as the neocons planned. And Lindsey Graham is getting very nervous. And so what do the neocons do when they get nervous? Well, they escalate. They talk about escalation. And in this instance, Lindsey Graham is talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not the first time Lindsey Graham has talked about Hiroshima and Nagasaki in reference to what is happening in Gaza. Just last week in Congress, Lindsey Graham said something like Hiroshima and Nagasaki is on steroids in reference to what's happening in Israel and in Gaza. I forgot the exact context, but it's not the first time that he has brought up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it was the collective West and the neocons that have been telling us over the last 2 years that when things go bad for Russia and for Putin, they're going to resort to the nuclear option, to using nuclear weapons, right? That's what they've been telling us for the last 2 years. As Russia continues to lose and as things continue to fall apart for the Putin, we have to be worried that he's going to use nukes. And it's the neocons, the collective West, that always bring up nuclear weapons, and they're the ones that always bring up Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which tells me that they're the ones that are actually thinking about some sort of nuclear option, because they're the ones that are always talking about nuclear weapons, and they're the ones that are always talking about the horrific use of these types of weapons in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, that's Graham. He's panicking. He's panicking and he's getting emotional, and it shows. It really came through in that interview. These guys are very dangerous. Very dangerous indeed. So let's talk about the new administration in Russia. Putin, he has given the names of the people he would like to see in his new administration. I believe the Duma has until the 14th of May to approve the names that Putin is proposing. And not much changes, to be quite honest. Lavrov is staying on as foreign minister, which is great news. 4 or 5 years ago, there were rumors, I believe very credible rumors, that Lavrov, he wanted to retire and to chill out, but Putin asked him to stay on, given the circumstances that were taking place in the world. And thank God Lavrov did stay on as foreign minister, and it looks like he is going to remain as foreign minister. So that was good news. And Shoigu, 4 or 5 years ago, there were rumors, very credible rumors, that Shoigu had asked Putin to, if it was okay for him to hang it up and retire, go fishing, enjoy the outdoors, which is something that Shoigu loves to do. But Putin told Shoigu to stay on and to see things through with the defense ministry and all of the challenges that Russia was about to face and was facing. And Shoigu, he said yes, and he stayed on as defense minister. And now he is being promoted. This was the one big change that took place yesterday. Shoigu is not fired. He's not being removed by Putin. There's no fight going on. There's no drama. Shoigu is getting promoted. He is going to become the secretary of the Security Council, which is the most important decision-making body, high-level decision-making body in Russia. Collective West media, they're saying that the Security Council is where Putin dumps all of the ministers and officials that he's unhappy with, and he kind of places them in the Security Council. That's his way of getting rid of them, which shows you how little the Collective West knows of Russia, because the Security Council, that's where it's at. That is where the big decisions are discussed. That is where the big decisions are made. And the fact that Shoigu is going to now be secretary of the Security Council is a promotion, and he's taking over for Nikolai Patrushev. So we will see where Patrushev goes. We still don't know what's going to happen with Patrushev, who at one point in time, because he was secretary of the Security Council, even the Collective West would say that Patrushev was the second most powerful man in Russia. So now that Shoigu is going to become secretary of the Security Council, they're making it out like Shoigu is being fired and he's being demoted. I don't understand their logic at times. I really don't. Most of the times, I don't understand their logic, if there even is logic there. But Patrushev, we're going to wait and see what happens with Patrushev. I imagine a new position will be made for Patrushev. That would be my guess. But I don't know. Maybe he wants to retire. Maybe he wants to chill out and relax. So we'll see what will happen with Patrushev. But that was the one change that was made yesterday. That's pretty much it. Shoigu, secretary of the Security Council. This is without a doubt a promotion. Patrushev, we're going to wait and see. And the new defense minister is Andrei Belousov. He is the new defense minister, and he was the deputy prime minister. So Belousov was in a position where he had an excellent understanding of how the entire Russian government was running. A trained economist, not a military man, but someone who has a very good understanding how the entire Russian government operates as deputy prime minister. He was actually prime minister for 1 week. When the prime minister was sick with the cough, he was acting as prime minister of Russia for 1 week. I believe he was also the minister of development as well. I believe he also held that position in the Russian government. And there are analysts who say that Belousov played a key role in beating back the sanctions attack that was thrown at Russia by the Collective West. He played an essential key role in getting Russia through the sanctions war and winning the sanctions war. So this guy knows what he's doing. He is a very capable, very good administrator and manager. And Shoigu was defense minister from 2012 to 2024. And Shoigu took the Russian military to a level where it outproduces the entire collective West, the US and Europe combined. That's the job that Shoigu did. He did an excellent job. Shoigu is also a very good manager and administrator. From what I understand, very good on the logistics side of things. He took a Russian military. I don't want to say it was in bad shape, but it definitely wasn't outproducing the entire collective West. And he took that military and he took it to a level where it is now outproducing the entire collective West. And we have the hypersonic missiles and the Calibras and the Kinzhals and the Iskanders and the Zircons. And Shoigu, he oversaw the defense ministry during the Maidan coup and what Russia, after the Maidan coup, saw as the inevitable smash with the collective West and NATO after 2014. I'm sure that Putin and Shoigu said, you know what, we need to build up our military because we're gonna have to go up against NATO or NATO proxy in Ukraine, and Shoigu oversaw all of that. I would say the one weak part of Shoigu's tenure as defense minister was the fact that he was late to the drone game. But you know, he made up for that very quickly. Russia was behind in drone manufacturing when the SMO started, but within a year, Russia was producing more drones than I believe all of the collective West, right? So I mean, he really did a great job. And I know there are rumors about Shoigu that he's corrupt and that he did a terrible job. You know, I just want to say that those rumors, in my opinion, those rumors were the product of Prigozhin. When I was in Moscow, everyone had a very favorable view of Shoigu, at least the people that I would talk to. They looked at Shoigu very favorably. Everyone really liked Shoigu. The people that I knew, you would talk about Shoigu and they would say, yeah, man, Shoigu is awesome. And then the Prigozhin thing happened and Prigozhin started to spread those rumors. I don't know if they're true or not. I don't know. How would I know? But Prigozhin started to really spread the nasty stuff about Shoigu, and it got traction. And that's where you see the talk about Shoigu being incompetent and not being a well-liked defense minister and being corrupt. My opinion is that all of that came from Prigozhin. And let's not forget what Prigozhin tried to do. I think we all know what Prigozhin was up to and what he was aiming for. Anyway, Shoigu, from 2012 to 2024, he took the Russian military to a very, very good level, right? It's one of the best militaries in the world. As Blinken and Kirby say, the second best military in Ukraine. Right? That's Blinken and Kirby. What a bunch of clowns, man. Anyway, now you're going to have Andrei Belousov. This guy is going to ramp things up. He is going to ramp things up. I'm telling you, he's going to ramp up production. He's going to keep costs manageable. He's an economist. He's going to manage the defense industry very well. He's going to make sure that things don't get out of hand with the actual cost of running the defense industry. So he's going to keep costs under control. He's going to ramp up production, and he's going to focus on innovation. Things are going to get a whole lot worse for the collective West with this guy in charge. Everything that I've read about Belousov tells me that he's going to do a very good job at the Ministry of Defense. So let's talk about this German idea to have Poland and Romania start shooting down Russian missiles. This is coming from German MPs. They want to shoot down Russian missiles over Ukraine. Incoming drones and projectiles could be targeted from Poland and Romania, lawmakers have said. So we have German MPs from the Greens, from the right, from the left, from the center. They think it would be a good idea if Poland and Romania started firing missiles into Ukraine in order to shoot down Russian missiles. I wonder if they asked Poland and Romania, what are their thoughts about starting to fire missiles into Ukraine? Wouldn't that make Poland and Romania a direct party in the conflict? Yes, it would. The minute that Poland and Romania starts firing missiles into Ukraine and they start shooting down Russian missiles, that makes them a party to the war, a direct participant in the conflict, which would then mean what? Well, if they're firing at Russia, then Russia is going to fire back, right? Of course. So let's see what these German MPs are saying. These very smart, very smart German MPs. Oh boy. Is it me, or does it seem like the most incompetent, incapable politicians in the world today are coming from Germany? Is this my imagination or what? I don't know. Let's see what they are saying here. Defending the airspace over Ukraine from Poland and Romania should not be ruled out in the long term. Anton Hofreiter, a member of Parliament for the Green Party, which is part of the German coalition, told FAZ. However, such a move is not up for debate at the moment, as the current priority for the West is to supply Ukraine with significantly more arms and ammunition, he stressed. Big surprise, a Green Party member, doesn't surprise me at all. Marcus Faber from the Free Democratic Party, the FDP, also in the ruling coalition, agreed that the airspace over the Ukraine border regions could be protected by air defense on NATO territory. According to Faber, this would only be possible if the West can secure enough ammunition for the air defense systems. A lawmaker for the opposition Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, Roderick Kaisweiter, also said Kiev's Western backers could shoot down Russian drones over Western Ukraine. This would relieve the Ukraine air defenses and enable it to protect the front, he explained. Nonsense. These guys are talking nonsense. How do I know they're talking nonsense? Well, because the one guy said that right now this is not up for debate. This plan is not being discussed, or at least seriously discussed. And this would only be possible if the West can secure enough ammunition for the air defense systems, which they cannot. They've already said they cannot. But still, the fact that they're thinking about this is very, very alarming. Very alarming indeed. If you're Poland or Romania, you would have to be nuts, absolutely crazy to go along with a plan like this. But who knows? The worse things get for the Zelensky regime and for Project Ukraine, the more panicky and desperate the collective West becomes. So yesterday we had an attack on an apartment in Belgorod, in the Belgorod region, and the apartment collapsed. I believe 20 people died, and it was pretty horrific to watch the video of the collapse of this apartment complex. And of course, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they are saying that this is a terrorist attack. Kiev is responsible, a terrorist attack against Belgorod. And Ukraine targeted the residential area using Tochka-U ballistic missiles, as well as Ulka and Vampire rocket launchers, according to the Ministry of Defense. I don't know, those vampire rocket launchers, if there's one weapon system, at least in my opinion, that seems to give the Russian military a little bit of trouble, it's those vampire rocket launchers. It seems like everything else they've been able to handle it fairly well, but those vampires, I don't know. But yeah, they keep on hitting Belgorod, and they hit the civilian infrastructure of Belgorod because the Ukraine military, they don't know what else to do because they can't take on the Russian military, so they strike out at civilian targets. And the only thing that this is going to accomplish is that it's going to motivate the Russian military and the Russian government to push the Ukraine military further back from the border and further back from Belgorod. How far back? Who knows? Maybe all the way to the Dnieper. We don't know. But there is fighting that is taking place right now in Volchansk, which is about 70 kilometers from the city of Kharkov. And I have read reports, even from the Institute for the Study of War, which is the Newland family think tank, that Volchansk is about to be surrounded. It is either surrounded or it's about to be surrounded. And if the Russians do indeed capture Volchansk, which I believe they will capture Volchansk, then this would be a big blow to the Ukraine military and to the Zelensky regime. And the Russians are very close to Kharkiv city. And so there's a lot of panic that is setting in Kiev, and a lot of finger pointing that is taking place in Kiev. How could this have happened? How did the Russians capture 12 villages so quickly? I thought we built fortifications in this region. That is what is taking place right now in Kiev. They are scratching their heads saying, you know, we got all of this money, and weren't we supposed to build these big fortifications in the Kharkov region? How did the Russians break through these fortifications so quickly? Well, Ukraine didn't really build fortifications in the Kharkov region. All the money that was sent to Ukraine in order to build fortifications in this area, somehow, some way, I don't know, it just kind of went missing, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Who knows? Who knows where all of the collective West money went? The money that was earmarked, or part of the money that was earmarked to fortify the areas in Kharkov. Who knows what happened to all of this money? I have no clue. I can't imagine what the democratic, upstanding, human rights, 100% accountable, non-corrupt government of Zelensky did with all of the money that was earmarked for building fortifications in Kharkov. I don't know. I really don't know. So Budanov is blaming Syrsky for the collapse of the Russian military in Kharkov, because Budanov knows that ultimately he's to blame for what's happening in Kharkov, because it was Budanov's idea, Budanov and Zelensky, it was their idea to attack civilian targets in Belgorod. They thought this was a very good idea, even though it serves no military strategic purpose. They thought it would be a good idea to poke the bear and to continue to terrorize the city of Belgorod. And now they're paying a very heavy price for what they have been doing in Belgorod. And so what does Budanov do? Budanov starts pointing the finger at Syrsky so he can avert blame and responsibility, because ultimately Budanov, Android AI Budanov, You're the one that thought it would be an excellent idea to attack Belgorod. You're the one that thought it would be a clever operation to send anti-Putin soldiers into Belgorod to try and capture some villages and take some photos and post them on Instagram. These were all Budanov's operations. And he pissed off the Russians after getting multiple warnings. The Russians said, enough playing around with these jokers. We're going to quickly take these 12, 13 villages and start pushing Ukraine back from the border region. So it's Syrsky's fault, according to Budanov. Here's an article from the Kiev Independent from December 2023. Zelensky, Kharkov Oblast, fortifications strongest. Other regions should follow suit. That was from 2023 December, right? And here is an article from yesterday. The Russians simply walked in. Ukraine troops in Kharkiv, tell BBC. So a year ago, the fortifications were an example. The fortifications in Kharkiv were an example that all of Ukraine should follow. Look at how well built the fortifications are in Kharkiv. This is an example for all of Ukraine. That was just in December. Not even a year ago. What am I saying? 6 months ago. That was what the Kiev Independent was reporting. And now the BBC is saying the Russians just walked in. How did this happen? How did this happen? How did it happen? Where did all the money go? Well, The Hill, they have an article with the title, NATO Risks World War III in Ukraine While Lining the Defense Industry Pockets by Douglas McKinnon, opinion contributor. Where did all the money go? Well, maybe Douglas McKinnon can clear things up for us. Where is all the money from the collective West going? Let's see what Mr. McKinnon has to say. Clearly, for a number of defense contractors in our nation and in Europe, Ukraine has become the gift that keeps on giving. But when does a never-ending supply of taxpayer money begin to resemble fraud, waste, and abuse? Some would certainly say now, as hundreds of millions of dollars have already disappeared down various rat holes in Ukraine with no accountability. Next, at what point do the billions and billions of aid pouring into Ukraine begin to resemble the world's largest Ponzi scheme? One definition of that age-old scam is a form of fraud that pays profits to earlier investors with funds from more recent investors. Except in this case, the earlier and more recent investors are not doing so of their own volition. Their various governments are deciding for them as they take their hard-earned money and turn it over by the billions to Ukraine and or quite possibly criminal enterprises. The grift in this case can sound very much like this. We have to prop up Ukraine now by sending hundreds of billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars so we won't have to send in U.S. troops later. Gee, and just who would be ordering those troops into combat in Ukraine? Ponzi scheme is what he called it. A Ponzi scheme. A grift. He calls it a grift. Where did all the money go? He says the money went down a rat hole. Those are his words, not my words. The money went down a rat hole. What happened to all the fortifications in Kharkov? Don't know. I have no idea. So that is an article from The Hill. So let's now talk about the news of Trump's peace plan, which if this is true, this is pretty ridiculous. which is why, I don't know, something doesn't feel right with this story, even though they say that these peace proposals, these points, these bullet points for a Trump peace plan in Ukraine were taken from Trump's policy book called America First. Maybe, probably, but something doesn't feel right about these bullet points for a peace in Ukraine, because if Trump actually believes that these are points for negotiation, well, then he's worse off than Biden. I mean, not even Biden, not even the Biden White House is proposing these types of points for a basis for negotiation in Ukraine, or if they were to propose some points for negotiation, not even the Biden White House would put these points down on the table. They wouldn't propose this stuff. And whatever you may think of Trump, like him, hate him, he's a negotiator. I don't think he would be this dumb to come up with these types of proposals as a starting point for negotiation. So something doesn't feel right, but who knows? Maybe Trump is being advised poorly, and maybe he actually believes that these peace proposal points would actually get to some sort of a ceasefire. I don't know. I'm just letting you know what I feel is a bit off about this list. Anyway, let me read you Trump's plan for Ukraine if he becomes president. Alleged plan if he becomes president. Point 1, the U.S. will insist on a ceasefire in Ukraine and the start of negotiations. Okay? If Ukraine starts negotiations, the USA will continue to send weapons and strengthen its defense. Ukraine's membership in NATO will be postponed. They can offer Russia an easing of sanctions. Ukraine will be allowed to insist on the return of all territories. The complete lifting of sanctions against Russia will be possible only after the signing of a peace agreement that will be fully acceptable to Ukraine. Every single one of these points is a non-starter for Russia. It's a laughable non-starter for Russia. Every single one of these points. I don't even think I need to get into the details of this. Someone who hasn't even been following the conflict in Ukraine closely would understand that these points are ridiculous. That Russia would look at these points and they would laugh. I mean, they would laugh. I think they would consider this some kind of a joke, or a Vovan and Lexus troll or something like that. I think Putin would be like, come on. This is like your version of Vovan and Lexus, right? I mean, that's what the Russian government would say to these points. So, yeah, I don't even think I need to get into the details of this. Ukraine's membership into NATO will be postponed. Like Russia's going to agree to that. They can offer Russia an easing of sanctions. Why would Russia care about the sanctions easing up? You know, the sanctions have been the best thing that has happened for Russia. A blessing in disguise. The Russians are out. They're finally out of the collective West system. And they're flourishing. They're prospering. The Russians are out of Eurovision. Thank God. I mean, we saw what an S-show Eurovision was. Yeah, the Russians are out. And they're better off for it. And everyone understands that. Ukraine will be allowed to insist on the return of all territories. Give me a break, man. As it is, this is a non-starter. It's not even a non-starter. It's even further off than than a non-starter. It's a non to a non to a non-starter. Yeah. Anyway, that's allegedly Trump's plan for peace. You want to know what Trump's plan for a ceasefire in Ukraine is? This is what my thoughts are. His plan is going to be the Syria plan, which is no money for Ukraine. That's just like he he did with ISIS, where he says, you know, I defeated ISIS. He didn't defeat ISIS. Let's be real. He stopped money going to IS. That's it. It was that simple. You want to get a ceasefire in Ukraine and force Zelensky to the negotiating table? Just cut off the money and the weapons. There you go. Game over. In 1 week, 2 weeks, Zelensky's at the negotiating table. That's simple. That freaking simple. That's what I think the plan is for a ceasefire. It won't happen in 24 hours, but it'll happen in 2 weeks. Anyway, let's do one more story and we'll get to our clown world. And the Financial Times, they are running with an article saying the U.S. is set to impose a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicle imports. 100% tariff, from 25% to 100%. What does this tell you? This tells me that China is the big dog in the world. They are the #1 power in the world. That's what this tells me. I realized this when I was in Moscow last year. Every other car was a Chinese car. They were nice cars too. And I was shocked because 3 years ago, when I was in Moscow and St. Petersburg, it wasn't like that at all. And in 3 years, 50% of all the cars were Chinese cars, and everyone was happy. No complaints. The city was moving. All the Yandex drivers, the taxi drivers, the Yandex, which is the equivalent of Uber in Moscow, they were happy with the Chinese cars, and they were nice. They were nice automobiles, and that's when I knew it's game over for the collective West. It's game over. Game over, man. Game over. Game over, man. Bill Paxton. Aliens. Game over, man. It's game over. That's what I was saying, you know, as I was sitting in the back of one of these Yandex Chinese EVs. I was like, game over, man. Yeah. So the big power, the big economic power, they want to keep things open. They want the free trade. The weaker countries, they fall back on protectionism, protectionist policies, right? That's what's going on here. So let's do, how are we doing on time here? Yeah, let's do a quick clown world and we'll wrap this video up. So the Sun, they have an article, a diagram with Putin and Putin's purge. Putin's purge, with all of the names, all of the people, the faces that were once in Putin's inner circle, and now he's purged them all. Shoigu, sacked. No, promoted. Gerasimov, disappeared. Really? Has he really disappeared? I don't think so. Hasn't disappeared at all. Putin's purge. Oh, boy. You knew that this was coming, right? Even if Putin didn't change one single person in the government, they would have thought up a story to criticize Putin or to make it scandalous. Putin's losing so bad in Ukraine that he didn't have the strength to replace one person in his government. They would have come up with something like that. He made one change in the defense ministry, one change. And Putin purge. And the articles from the collective West are stuff like Shoigu fired, trouble in the Kremlin. Putin upset with Shoigu because of the conflict in Ukraine. You knew this was coming. You knew it was coming. Oh, boy. I've seen governments come into power or get reelected back into power, and they change everybody in the government. Like in Greece, when a government gets reelected, they change everybody. Everybody in every ministry, from foreign ministry to defense ministry to finance ministry, everything gets replaced, gets turned upside down, left, right. I mean, everyone is gone. And new people come in, and other people from one ministry go to another. Like the guy that was foreign minister, he becomes defense minister, and everything gets switched around. This happens in Greece all the time. And it's absolutely normal. No one says anything about it. Sure, people discuss the new ministers in the ministry, the new positions in the ministry, but no one loses their freaking mind over it. And this is coming from the UK, right? Which has had 4 prime ministers in 2 years, which is about to have 4 prime ministers in 2 years. Bojo, and listen to the names of the prime ministers: Bojo, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, and now they're going to elect Keir Starmer. Their new prime minister is going to be someone that not even the people in the UK even like. They don't even like this guy, but they're going to elect him as prime minister. He's going to be appointed as prime minister, whatever you want to call it, because who else do you put in place for prime minister? And didn't the UK replace Ben Wallace with Grant Shapps just last year? Didn't Rishi Sunak do that? And didn't they have to make David Cameron a lord so that he could be appointed foreign minister? Rishi Sunak's purge. Rishi Sunak's purge. They had to actually make David Cameron into a lord so that he could become foreign minister, foreign secretary. All right. Anyway, enough of that. That is the clown world. That is the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.